Welcome to Luminous. I'm Father Martin Trask, the parish priest of St Patrick and St Thomas More in Sheffield, England. And I want to talk about an unexpected description that Jesus gives himself. We have all heard the titles of Jesus as Son of God, Son of Man, Son of David, Son of Mary and Joseph, or Lord and Rabbi, or Messiah, or the Good Shepherd. But you may not have heard of an unusual one which Jesus gives himself. Every time I hear the Gospel passage that I will read in a bit, my mind goes back to when I was 5 years a priest, and a group of us were invited to Rome to the English College's summer house, and we had various talks on finance, on even cooking. But every day we celebrated Mass, and there was a list outside the chapel for us to sign up, for us to preach. Me being me, left it to the last moment, and I noticed one particular space was left. And then I read the Gospel and understood why. The Gospel is taken from Matthew chapter 24, verses 36 to 44. It concerns the coming of the Son of Man. But about that day and hour no one knows, neither the angels of heaven, nor the Son, but only the Father. For as the days of Noah were, so will be the coming of the Son of Man. For as in those days, before the flood, they were eating and drinking, marrying and giving in marriage, until the day Noah entered the ark. And they knew nothing until the flood came and swept them all away. So too will be the coming of the Son of Man. Then two will be in the field, one will be taken and one will be left. Two women will be grinding meal together, one will be taken, one will be left. Keep awake, therefore, for you do not know on what day your Lord is coming. But understand this: if the owner of a house had known in what part of the night the thief was coming, he would have stayed awake and would not have let his house be broken into. Therefore, you must also be ready, for the Son of Man is coming at an unexpected hour. Now I understood why the other priests had left me that Gospel. The first part of the Gospel is fair enough. We can see what Jesus is saying. Of the two men in the field, or the two women grinding meal, one is taken, one left. We can't judge by outward experiences what is in our heart. So we don't know God's choice of who is saved and who isn't. But it's the end of the Gospel which is perhaps the most surprising. Jesus compares himself to a thief. When we think of our house, our property, and how we protect that house, we don't want anyone to break in. We put the security there to keep us safe. And yet Jesus tells us, had the man known the thief was coming, he would have stayed awake and would not have let his house be broken into. How can Jesus compare himself to a thief? What is he saying to us? In our lives, we too can be guarded about how we show ourselves to people. We can hide behind a personality. We can portray who we are on the outside, whereas in our hearts we may be completely different. But when God comes into our lives, he breaks down all our defenses. Jesus wants us to love him, the whole of us, even those things which we have kept hidden from other people. Perhaps those things we are ashamed of in our lives, those sins which sin causes. But Jesus wants to love all of us, for us to hide nothing from him at all. That's why he compares himself to a thief. Jesus wants us to let down our defenses which we put in our lives. He wants us to be completely open with him, to talk to him about what is on our minds, to be vulnerable, to be like a child, so that we can talk to him, be open with him, and let him in every part of our lives. But Jesus knows that we can't do that on our own. It needs prayer. It needs reading the scriptures. It needs being still in his presence. Only then can we be comfortable with Jesus entering our lives. And Jesus then doesn't come as a thief, someone we are scared of, someone we want to hide from. He comes as a friend, someone who we can sit next to, someone who can put his arm around us when we talk to him and tell him our inmost thoughts. Someone we can cry on, someone we can smile at, someone we can smile with, someone we can laugh with. Jesus wants us to be open in love with him. The more we do this, the more we will be ready for when that day comes, when he will call us back to him. We don't need defences around our lives for Jesus. What we do need is an open heart, full of his love, so that we can share that love with others. And so let's just now spend a moment in prayer to think of what areas of our lives we keep hidden from him. And in that prayer, ask God to help us to put down those defences and to be vulnerable before him. And in being open and vulnerable before him, he will enter our lives more deeply. So we pray, Father, help us to open our hearts and minds to you. Help us to live the life that you want us to live, using the gifts that you have given us, so that when our time comes, we will be ready and we will stand firm. We ask this in Jesus' name. Amen.
I'm Bishop David McGough, an auxiliary bishop here in this archdiocese. I'm just so delighted through yourselves, Christian faith will have a voice. And you're here today giving voice to that media. The greatest gift that any of us has is the gift of life itself. We struggle throughout our lives to live life to the full, and we sometimes mess it up, but that life is so precious. And it is God's gift to each one of us from the very first moment of conception to the last moment of our lives, to be cherished, to be loved, to be safeguarded. So God bless you all.
Shalom World, God's own channel.